And yesterday and today, we've been largely spending our time processing the emotions we've all been going through as a national community regarding the tragedy in Orlando. And in my reading last night, talking about this, I was especially moved by a piece I read on Common Dreams. That's commondreams.org is the website, called "They're Killing Us, period. Help us stop them, period." It was written by Grace Dolan-Sandrino, who is a teen activist. She'll tell us a little bit about herself. She joins us now. Grace, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much.
You know, your piece was so beautiful. I got so much out of it. And tell us a little bit about yourself. As I understand, you're what? You're 15?
Yes, I am.
You're 15, and your bio on the website says you are a transgender teen Afro-Latina activist. Is that a fair description?
I think it is, yes. I am 15. I am a theater major in high school, and I have been working around transgender activism for the past, I would say, 3 years since I began my transition. And I've always been very involved in the LGBTQ community for like youth empowerment since I came out. And I began to be a peer educator at SMYAL, a youth organization here in D.C., teaching safe sex practices. And now I've written this article about my experience in the past 3 days.
Well, you've had quite a 3 days. I mean, emotionally, because I guess, was it Friday that you were at this White House summit for African American LGBTQ youth? Is that right? That must have been. I mean, we'll get to Orlando, but so you met the president?
No, I did not meet the president.
Well, darn it.
But I did meet an amazing man, David Johns, who is the executive director of the Initiative on Academic Excellence for African Americans. And he was he hosting this event, or? Yes, he, in partnership with, I believe it was NBJ and the NBJ organization, the National Organization for Black Justice.
And so you got to go to the White House.
I did. I got to go to a reception at the White House after we had a day-long summit at the National Association for Education. So, and then, Saturday, I know in Washington, D.C., I didn't know there was a pride parade until I tried to drive from my house here to a party, and my 15-minute drive took about an hour. That's how I found out. But a lot of people looked like they were having a really good time. Yeah, we were having a great time. I was in, this was my second time marching in Capitol Pride in D.C. I had a great time. It was such a fun day. You know, the entire LGBTQ community and a lot of the allies came out and supported one another, and we just got to have so much fun as a community, and it was an amazing experience. Yeah, I'll bet. And coming after that White House thing, it must have been so exciting. And then, as you said, of course, you had, you wrote that you'd been more excited and then more terrified by the weekend's roller coaster of emotions, because then, of course, we all woke up to the news from Orlando. Yeah. And you had to process that. And, of course, I'm guessing that, you felt kind of, well, you tell me how you felt, but I imagine it felt like a personal attack in some way, or personally threatening. Yeah? So I woke up, and I had thought about going to the second day of Pride, going to the festival. And then I walked into my mom's room, and she was watching the news. And when I walked in, she didn't say anything. She was just looking down at the floor, and the news was playing in the background. And I saw on the TV that there had been a mass shooting. So, of course, I was already stunned by the fact that there was yet another mass shooting in the United States. And then I found out that my mom told me, she said,
50 people had been killed, and that they were specifically LGBTQ people.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, my heart broke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's 2016, and it's the largest mass shooting in the U.S. history, and it was perpetrated on such already oppressed minorities. But I would have thought with the victory of marriage equality that the world's ideas and that our mentalities were changing, but this really just felt like such a setback in our movement.
Yeah, and if I can say so, Grace, it seems to me they have changed in certain ways. The world has evolved in miraculous ways in some ways. But, progress, it comes with setbacks and people who react to it. I was trying to, put myself in your shoes and what it might feel like for you. And the only thing I could think of is I'm really old, okay? And when I was 15, I was considered really outrageous because it was during the height of the whole hippie thing, and I had hair down to my shoulders. And where I lived, they would actually kill you for that. There were people who were killed for that, a whole house full of them, and then they would certainly beat you up, but that was common, and you were really hated. And in a way, we were part of kind of advancing the society, but it was very dangerous at the same time that it was exciting. And I was wondering if in some way that's kind of how it feels for you, that you're helping society change by being out and being who you are, and yet at the same time it's scary because there are those who will react violently to that.
Yeah, that's completely right. So most of my activism work before this article was done under a completely other name because I was so almost afraid. I was afraid to be out and to be who I am because it was about 2 years ago that a girl was stabbed on the metro because she was trans.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many hate crimes that come upon the trans community, especially Black and Latina trans women. And I've happened to fall in that demographic, and that can be something that is just so, so scary. And, my generation is already the generation with the most openly queer youth. So,
yeah,
I, in a way, feel empowered and safe, but also it's very scary.
Yes, I know it is. And, it's one of those things. And in about a minute, I think we're going to have to take a break. I'm hoping you can hang for about 4 minutes in between so that we can talk a little more. Because, yes, I think it is scary. I know it is scary. And I'm sorry that you have to be afraid. And I sort of apologize on behalf of everyone who's older. But at the same time, I think there's a reward in that if you can, turn that fear into courage and that courage into change. And I think you talk a lot about your generation leading us, and I want to talk about that. If you can stick around for a few minutes, I want to talk about that more with you, Grace Dolan-Sandrino. So please, if you can, stick with us, and we'll be right back on the Thom Hartmann Show. I'm Richard R.J. Eskow, sitting in for Tom. And we are back on the Thom Hartmann Program. I am Richard R.J. Eskow, sitting in for Tom, and we are talking with Grace Dolan-Sandrino, who is a transgender Afro-Latina teen activist, 15 years old. And, Grace, in talking with you, part of me, it comes to mind is there's an old Rudyard Kipling poem, we're slipping down the ladder rung by rung, and it says about our young people, they knew the truth too young, meaning they saw too much tragedy too early. But I feel like you and your generation, I have faith that you can handle the truth, and you want the truth, and you want to share your truth with the rest of us and lead us so that we understand the world you're building and can help you with that. And is that close? Am I sort of right about that? Oh, I don't even have her for all of this. Okay.
All right. Well, that was a nice little talk I gave to myself. I hope now I can connect. Grace, did you hear what I was saying?
Yes.
And is that kind of close?
Yes, 100%. You're right. Our generation, we see the truth. We're not blind. We can see the truth that you're talking about, but also we're not going to accept anything but the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we see many people kind of using the excuse of we don't understand these children, we don't understand these queer youth, so they use that as an excuse not to help us. But just ask us what we need, and please listen. That's all we're asking. And if we can share our truth with you, we hope that you will understand us more. And that is something that's very important, that we all begin to share our truth, because once we can share what is true to ourselves, then we can all understand each other, and then hopefully not have to go through such terrible times in which people feel that the need to go and murder 49 people.
Absolutely. And I feel, one of the things you talked about in your article for Common Dreams that I thought was so right on the money was that, you really, here's how I processed it anyway, Grace, was that, we are changing as a society, and that even people who aren't murderers, who don't think of themselves as homophobes or what have you, who are liberal or whatever, that there's change going on, that something is happening here, but you don't know what it is, as the old song says, that you really need to find out that we are, you mentioned, a spectrum of sexuality, for example, not just the normal gay, straight paradigm that we understood, and kind of, I would call it colors of sexuality, different shadings and tones of, different ways that sexuality expresses itself, whether it's just transgender or cis gay or cis straight or whatever, that there's a universe out there of human individual expression, human gender expression, human sexual expression that is going to come to full blossom in your generation. And the rest of us need to learn from you what that's going to look like, so we can, build a world that is comfortable for you to evolve into.
Yeah, it's really important that we adapt this idea of intersectionality. I am growing up at the intersections of race. We all grew up at the intersections of race, age, sexual orientation, gender identity. So with each different intersection in which you grow, you will have a different and special and individual human experience. And we all just have to adapt. We all have to accept everyone's intersections and go and meet them where they are. And that's a really important thing to think about, because if we just hold ourselves to the confines of gay, straight, male, female, black, Latino, Asian, white,
right,
we will just put everybody in a box, and then we develop a mentality of if anybody leaves that box and begins to experience intersections of life, then that's where the prejudice is born.
If they can't, if people don't fit into the boxes that they have in their heads for where they think everybody's supposed to go, if you don't fit into that, in a way, I mean, that's why I thought of my experience when I was 15, because I was actually, in those days, that was shocking. That was stepping outside the boundaries and the boxes. And, I mean, I might just as well to them have been, transgressing, because it was a violation of the categories. And I think what we have to do is embrace the crossing of the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And if people want to live in a box, fine. If they don't, that's fine too. So what would you have people, let's say older people, fearful people, or just well-intentioned but confused people, what would you say to them?
I would say whenever you meet a new person, make sure to ask them what their gender pronouns are, because even though they may be masculine presenting or feminine presenting, You don't know how they identify. And once you begin to open the question of what is your identity, then people can feel more comfortable in letting you know who they are as a person. And that way we can learn person by person, experience by experience, situation by situation. And at the end of that conversation, you may have just learned an entirely new side of life, and now that's added to your repertoire of experience.
Well, that's beautifully put, and I guess I would also say to people to whom that qualifies, don't be afraid to ask, don't be ashamed to ask, don't be.
Yeah, it's better to ask than to say the wrong thing. And
absolutely.
Also, if you say the wrong thing, just apologize, ask what they prefer to be called, then move on.
And that's how we grow. And unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. But Grace Dolan-Sandrino, thanks for coming on the program. I feel a lot of love for you and your generation, and gratitude to you for expressing your thoughts. We will be right back after this. I'm Richard R.J. Eskow, sitting in for Thom Hartmann.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.